Welcome to episode 1, Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes, and with me is my daughter, Emma Hughes. Hi, Emma.
Hello, everyone.
Emma, tell me what today is.
Oh my gosh, guys, today is a historic day. 14 years ago today, an agility force was born. It is Watermark Millionaire's 14th birthday, and she is the logo, she is the face, she is the inspiration for Go Get 'em Agility. So if everybody could wish Millie a very happy birthday,
Happy
she
birthday.
would appreciate that.
Happy birthday to Millie. She
Yeah.
brought you into the world of agility.
And she can take me out too.
And tell me where you went with Millie. What did you do with Millie?
Oh, Millie took me to a lot of places. We started out in 2013 in Orlando, Florida for invitationals. And I believe I was 10 or 11 at the time. I can't really remember. And then a few years after that, we started on the junior world team in 2016. And Millie made the junior world team, Team USA, every year after that until she had to retire in 2020. Her official retirement was in 2019, but she made the team in 2019 and then retired. So
when she made the team in 2019, in practice, she injured her shoulder and wasn't able to go to Switzerland, which is where you were going before the pandemic. Yes. And then the pandemic hit in 2020. So tell me this, Millie, so you got Millie when you were 4 years old. And Millie was an 8-week-old puppy. We got her out of Oregon. And you trained Millie from the ground up with a little bit of help from me with safety, raising the dog walk and that sort of thing. But my question to you, Emma, is Millie was untrained. And a lot of people come into the world of agility with untrained dogs. They want something to do with their dog. And would you recommend, or what is your opinion about starting agility as a brand new handler with a green dog and versus going into agility with a trained dog with a green handler? So in horses, you don't put a green rider on a green horse. The horse is trained by somebody else. And usually when you start with riding for the very first time, you're put on what's called a schooling horse. Should the world of agility have schooling dogs?
Right, and you're saying that a green dog would be a dog that has never done agility before, possibly a young dog. So that's Correct. A green dog.
Correct.
You know, I really don't know, and it's been so long since I've been, for lack of a better word, a green handler, and personally, I think there is, for kids, I believe it's really important to have your own dog, especially starting out with your own dog. I think kids, there's a special connection there. Obviously, with adults, there's a connection as well. But I remember I did try with Tia, who was an experienced dog.
And she was my dog. So yeah, I had trained her.
Yeah, I think I tried to run with her about twice, maybe 3 times, and she did not stay with me. She knew that I didn't know what I was doing, and she's like, come on, man. And she would run around the ring and she'd look for you. Right. So that, I was young at that point, and so I don't really remember that clearly, but maybe if you are a new handler and your dog that's supposed to be experienced, if your dog runs away from you, that can be a bit of a jarring experience, right? And so if you are going as a new handler with an experienced dog, I think that dog has to be really, really experienced, and you need to know that that dog won't run away from you, because there's nothing worse than walking into the ring. You're already really, really, really nervous, and then your dog doesn't listen to you, right? And so I do believe that green dogs and green handlers, I think that's a bond that's really strong. And I think that if you can get your green dog to stay with you, you'll have a little bit more success, a little bit more connection, especially in the beginning. So I say green dog, green handler, but that's just what I've been brought up with.
Okay. And interesting, I don't really remember you practicing with Tia, but I'm sure that you did. And
Yeah, I don't remember.
I would guess to say that your practicing here at home with Tia was probably pretty good because you were able to carry food with you.
Hmm.
And she wouldn't run. I mean, she ran fine for me, but she was definitely looking for me when she ran with you. And we knew right from the very beginning that it wasn't going to work. Um, so one of the struggles that I think new handlers and new dogs have is that in the beginning, you are not only training a handler all about handling skills, but you are also teaching the dog their set of skills. And so once the dog understands how to do the dog walk, how to do the teeter, how to do a tunnel, then it really comes down to the handler learning their skills and essentially becoming a dog trainer and moving their dog around the course in an effective manner. They need to learn how powerful their motion is, their location, and all the different handling cues that we give our dog to help guide them around the ring.
I also think that for those of you that drive a lot or know how to drive, I think sometimes handling somebody else's dog is like driving somebody else's car. And so, the seat's
Mm,
not right. Maybe it's a stick shift and you don't know how to drive stick shift.
yeah, the brakes
And
will
it's a
be
whole different thing. And so I also do think that um, when you are a new handler with an experienced dog, you only really learn how to run and how to point. Because I have a dog named Dottie. She's very experienced, and she's really, really good at running with other people. She's great with running with other people. And I've had kids, younger, less experienced people, whose dogs maybe aren't quite at the agility level yet for like off leash stuff. They're like, hey, can we run Dottie? Can I run Dottie just, once? And Dottie ran fine and they ran great, but it doesn't really teach the person how to handle because you just point and the Dottie will do it. You don't even have to say anything. Like weave poles, you just point at the weave pole, she'll go right in. So,
right. And I think that there's some benefit to having a new handler run an experienced dog. But what's interesting is that I think they get a false sense that if they just need to kind of point the dog where the obstacle is and they'll grab it, and it makes it easier for them, definitely, because the dog knows their skills. But then I also think that they get frustrated with their own dog because, well, if I'm pointing them the same way, why aren't they grabbing the weave pull entrance or the tough tunnel entrance? And there's such a large amount of training that goes into dogs in agility that it's not just an hour of training. It is literally hours and hours of training the same skill over and over again. And it's difficult to explain to new handlers just how much training goes into these dogs that are at the elite level, at the
I
excellent
mean, Millie
level.
was a decade, right? It's a long time to be working on your teeter.
Right. I think Millie was, I want to say Millie was 6 or 7 years old when you went to Florida.
I want
And
to say, yeah,
and then 7 or 8 when you went to Europe for the first time.
yeah.
And that amount of training, I think 5 years, 4 to 5 years of training is where the sweet spot starts to come. The
Oh,
handler has enough
absolutely.
training to understand the skills, and the dog has enough training to fix mistakes or to find a new line faster than a young dog.
And you can see that with a lot of really, really, really experienced handlers, a lot of EO people that have been in the game for a while. You'll see them with these really, really, really young dogs, 2 years old, 3 years old, and they're bringing them up really, really fast, and they're winning everything across the board. And you're like, that's a 2-year-old dog. How are they doing that? And it's not necessarily the dog. It's the handler, right? They've
Exactly.
got 10, 15, 20 years under their belt. That was kind of with Dottie and I brought her up really, really fast because I got her when I was 15. And at that point, I had 11 years of agility experience. And so I knew the game. I knew how to train dogs. and it was easier to bring Dottie up. And by the age of 2, you know, she was doing really, really well.
Right. You're no longer thinking about how to do a front cross, how to do a blind cross, or why and when. Right there, you see the lines differently with 11 years of experience than you do with 1 year of experience.
Right.
And there's a lot of benefit to that. So I think that your point of building that bond of a green handler with a green dog and growing together, I think that can be, I think it is extremely powerful. And I think that as long as green handlers don't allow their frustration of the game, of the learning process, to get the better of them, I think in 3, 4, 5 years time, they will reap the benefits of growing together, that that bond that creates in that team that forms. Not to say that green handlers with trained dogs don't have that same bond. It's just a little bit different that you trained your own dog from the ground up. And I think that is a very valuable and beneficial bond to have.
And especially as everybody has their, you know, their own running styles. And if you hand off a dog, you know, that might have a different who's used to a different running style, to a new handler, you know, who has a different handling running style, it can feel like, you know, there's a missing puzzle piece in there. And it'll take a while for that feeling to go away. I have never run anybody else's dog for an extended period of time, but I do know that when I, as an experienced handler, was running an experienced dog in Europe, I ran a little poodle, I felt very much out of my depth. And so if I, as an experienced handler, you know, felt that, of course, you know, a green handler is going to feel arguably even a little bit more uncomfortable. Especially because the dog knows what they're doing. And so they're barking at you, they're spinning at you, they're jumping at you, they're like, come on, let's go. Right. And you don't really know what you're doing.
Right.
And that's a really stressful situation to be in. And
your analogy of going back to the car analogy of it feeling different, the brakes feel different, the steering feels different. Some of your you know, your wipers and your lights, they're all in slightly different places. And so it does take a while to learn to drive the new car. And just like an experienced handler with an experienced dog, it takes time for that running style to blend, both the dog and the handler learning the responses of the other, one of each other. And I think that's a really good analogy, that you're basically renting a car or leasing a car or buying a brand new car and learning how to drive a new car. And it takes time.
Yeah. It's like dropping the keys of a Ferrari into a 16-year-old's hand and say, okay, go drive and go win.
Are you saying that
they're going to be so stressed and so unsure of themselves about that?
Are you saying that you have Ferraris for dogs? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not. I think Millie in her prime maybe hit a Porsche level, and now she's kind of on par with the Volkswagen Beetle.
Finely tuned engine. She's
in the
wonderful.
70s Beetle category. I think in the next few years she'll hit the 60s Beetle category, and she'll just decrease in engine power, but she's still loud.
That's right, and she's still valuable, still beautiful. We love the patina on her. Emma, I want to thank you for joining me on this first episode of Go Get 'em Agility. I had a blast talking to you about.
I've had a lot of fun.
Green dogs and green handlers, and so thank you very much. I hope to do this again, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Woof, woof.